I Saw the TV Glow is about a kid named Owen who becomes enamored with a hit television show, and the unexpected friendship that allows him to see it. The movie has a late-night, melancholic quality, nostalgia for us 90s kids, and plenty more behind the static. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always, and he does not have any glow of any kind in his face because his light bulb went out and he's still not replaced it. Tim is here.
I have my own natural glow.
Yes, very good. This is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a movie. It's that simple. And on this week's episode, we are looking at I Saw the TV Glow, which is a movie from this year, directed by Jane Schoenbrun, if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, sorry, Schoenbrun. Sorry, I put the R in the wrong place. Who did a movie previously called We Are All Going to the World's Fair, which we never did on the show. I think I mentioned it on like a Patreon bonus thing, maybe briefly. But
yeah, I feel like we had at least a little discussion on it because I know we both saw it. But yeah, we did a proper episode, and I guess to be fair, that one is and probably similar to this, maybe not like full-on horror, but
no
horror adjacent stuff.
If anything, I'd say that one was more horror because it felt more tense the entire time, whereas this one there's definitely some horror-esque stuff in here, at least in spirit, but it's not a full-on horror movie. That said, though, I think we both wanted to see it, and it seemed worth doing, so yeah. We're here anyway. But yeah, so it's more horror adjacent than full-on horror movie. But
it's kind of about the power of horror media, which and friendship through horror media. Which, I mean, hey, that's relevant to the show.
Oh, you're saying we're Owen and Maddie, then? Is that what you're
Pretty
saying?
much, yeah.
Okay, yes, we bonded just like the characters in this movie.
Yeah,
so
I mean, remember like on the early episodes when you used to make tapes of the movies and send them to me and
oh, how could I forget, Tim? How could I forget? I was sending Tim VHS in the year 2015, yes. So yeah, welcome to the show. We'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers, and if you are enjoying the discussion, please do hit the like button if you're on YouTube. It helps out a bunch, and of course you can get bonus content as well as bonus content for other shows over on Patreon, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to even say in the spoiler-free section, but what I will say is that it's about two characters in the 90s who bond over a TV show that they like, and they're both kind of like misfits, they're kind of outsiders, and have maybe not the best home lives, and bond over this TV show that's kind of horror-themed. In fact, I would say that there's a couple of references that make it feel like it is basically just a direct reference to a certain hit television show.
We're gonna get there.
The Buffy of the Vampire Slayer, one might say. Particularly, I'll just say one of them is the you see the start of an episode and the credits that are popping up at the start of the episode is just the Buffy font. It just is.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not a font expert, but I was like, those look familiar.
No. I don't claim to be a font expert myself, but
fontist.
Yes, that sounds like you're like bigoted towards fonts.
Well, maybe there are some that you don't like.
I mean, there definitely is. You seen Comic Sans, Tim? Round it up.
Very nice.
Thank you. I have my funny moments. So yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just. I mean, I went in expecting some aesthetic, but of course the last film Schoenbrun did was a very kind of micro budget. It mostly took place in like a bedroom with one character on their computer, and that was kind of the movie. It was quite effective for like how little it had to work with, so it was kind of interesting seeing not a big budget movie because it's definitely not that. It's an A24 low budget indie, but you know, it has locations, it has multiple actors, it has like a lot of things that movies have.
Some special effects and including like practical stuff and
yeah, it's going for a vibe and an aesthetic, which you know we'll discuss its success in achieving such a thing. But also, I think it's worth mentioning here that it's definitely a movie with a lot of very explicit subtext. This is not a movie where like there's stuff that's weird, that's stylistic. It's not just a straight told story that's like it's only, I mean, it's got like a 5.9 in IMDb average, and I suspect that there is a very like ardent, like, we hate this crowd for this movie, regardless of how effective we're about to say it is. I suspect there's people who just hate it for the fact that it's weird, or the fact that the subtext is about something specific, which we'll get into. But yes. Anyway, Tim.
Yeah.
What did you think of I Saw the TV Glow?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Going in, I kind of figured that, yes, this was going to be more of a kind of artsy metaphor movie or whatever. Yes. So, yeah, like I'm assuming, like you're saying...
It's not eloquent to put it that way, but artsy metaphoric movie is definitely how you would describe it.
Yeah, like the people you're talking about that are giving it low scores, I'm assuming that they are strictly trying to follow the plot and, you know, aren't understanding, like, oh, there's a metaphor there. And I think if
or they're just bigots, that's also possible as well.
That's also a possibility. Yeah. But I mean, I guess maybe there's probably a lot that you can take out from it, but I think there is a very
which, and also, just to be fair, that's not to say that anyone who dislikes it falls into one of those two camps. Sure. It's entirely possible you just don't think it works, and that's fine too. But yeah, sorry, Tim, there you go.
Oh no, yeah, it's fair. And then I think, like you mentioned, vibes before. I think this is very much a vibes movie, which I very dug. Yeah, it's something I really dug. I like the two leads, and I actually did find. I think there's like a very specific metaphor, which I guess probably wait to get into it in spoilers, but I still found that I related a lot to the idea of basically like bonding with people and forming friendships over shared media, which is something that I did like a lot of, especially in like middle school and high school. Like one of my best friends that I made in middle school is because like I was reading a Star Wars book and he came over, and I mean, very similar to how this movie kind of starts, where he sees the person reading like the episode guide. Like a friend came over to me and was like, oh, hey, you like Star Wars? And we kind of bonded over that. And then
I'm just imagining a world where, oh, you like Star Wars, like it's some niche thing, was once a time.
I mean, yeah, it probably doesn't sound like that would be that esoteric in present day, but back in, geez, what would that have been, like 90, before the episode 1 came out, so like probably like 96, 97 or something. That was actually
you mean
novel.
When this movie starts in 1996, you're the same age as these
probably
characters?
About that same time. Honestly, yeah. But no, I mean, I think that they really portray that like relationship well, of like just being so into this TV show to where it's affecting your life, and especially like as like awkward high school students and stuff. And I thought the leads were great. I love the look of the film. Like there are times when it does get into like weirder trippy stuff, which I thought all looked really cool. I love when they show actual scenes from the TV show, like as kind of like weird and goofy as it is. That is something that I really want to watch. It's funny because it seems like it is it does seem like it's trying to be like Buffy, but with a like early Nickelodeon budget. Like it reminded me of like Buffy, but then with something like Are You Afraid of the Dark level.
The other thing that made me think of Buffy before the font even was when the character was explaining the show, they mentioned Monsters of the Week, but the big bad. There was that phrase, the big bad. I'm like, no, that's literally what the villains in the seasons were called in Buffy. You referred to them as the big bad. So, but you're right, it does have kind of like a sort of more teen quality to it as well, and it's definitely doing its own thing. But I couldn't help but escape the obvious reference in my mind.
But yeah, I mean, I think it works on a lot of levels. Like obviously,
there's also a small role played by an actor who was in Buffy. That's also a thing. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not a big role, but it's like Amber Benson, who played Tara on Buffy, shows up in a very tiny role.
Oh, I think I must have missed her.
I'll explain it in spoilers who she was. But
okay, yeah. I was wondering, like, one of the main characters on the show is named Tara, so I kind of wondered, like, if that was an obvious reference to that as well.
Yeah, either a fan of Buffy or the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I'm not. It's one or the
other. But yeah, no, I don't know. It worked on a lot of levels for me. Like, just I thought the filmmaking was on point. I liked like the vibes, the aesthetic. I think just looking at it on its own, obviously, if you're not looking at it through like you know, in an allegory kind of sense, then it is pretty weird. But I mean, weird usually works for me. But then also, yeah, there's like a deeper meaning to it, which I think, you know, I still enjoyed, even though, you know, what I think it's about doesn't really apply to me. But I think it, you know, probably especially like powerful to the people it does. But there's still a lot of stuff that I found that I related to. So yeah, I was very happy with them. I was glad to finally watch it.
Yeah, that was great. It's just really well directed. I think the two leads are very good. They're very nice, awkward performances. They feel like they feel very real, but at the same time, it does feel like it's in this heightened kind of like tone that the movie's going for. They kind of fit into it perfectly. And, you know, even just as something as simple as the main character, Owen, like, I don't know if the actor, Justice Smith, like always sounds like this, but he definitely has a distinct voice in this.
Yeah, he actually doesn't, because like I've seen him in like bigger movies. Like he was the star of Detective Pikachu. And...
Okay, I've not had the pleasure, Tim. Forgive me.
But yeah, like he has like a much more normal voice, but like yeah, he does a very good job of playing.
I've not seen it, but I want to say he was in the trailer for that Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out last year. I could be wrong though.
That sounds familiar.
I feel like I remember his face from that. I could be wrong though. That's just vague memories of a trailer.
Yeah, but he's definitely been in like in a few things. But yeah, no, I thought this was definitely like he's showing us like another side to what he usually does.
Yeah,
because I think like before in those other things, he's usually a bit more of like, you know, maybe the manic kind of nervous guy, you know, and those are like, you know, big Hollywood movies. So obviously you got to have someone being like, you know, what did you just say? Or, you know, what's going on? But yeah, like, I don't know, you know, there's guys that say things like that in movies.
I'm just, there's a reason why you're not the one doing it, Tim. That's all.
And someday I'll get my big break. I just want to be killed in a movie. Someone put us in a horror movie where we can just die. That'd be fun.
I love how there was a story playing out in the background there. I heard a meow a couple of times, and then I just saw a hand open the door a little bit to let a cat in.
The cats are in. It's time for the cats to play. Yeah. I don't know. Go on, say whatever you're gonna say.
I was going to say, you said there that like the main thing doesn't really necessarily apply to you, and I guess that's kind of true for me as well. But I do think that it does an excellent job of like always feeling relatable, even if the specific experience that's informing the subtext isn't. You know, like I think it still works if you've ever felt like an outsider,
Absolutely.
if you've ever felt like you don't fit in with either your group or your parents or whatever it may be. I think you'll find a lot to relate to in this. If you know, basically, if you're any kind of weirdo, you're going to find something to relate to here, and I say that lovingly for the record.
Yeah. So the freaks that listen to our show are gonna,
of course,
definitely feel that.
Yes, absolutely. So, no, it's interesting. Also, I spotted his name in the credits, and I actually didn't realize who it was until after I finished the movie. But Joe's got a small role in this movie. Fred Durst is in this movie.
I didn't realize that either. That was interesting.
I was expecting for the rolling to start at any point. And I'm like, the acclaimed director of The Fanatic is in this movie?
I forgot he did that. Yeah, no, that took me by surprise too. Like, I know there's like a couple like, yeah, like specific like cameos and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously the character he plays, like, you know, we like saw and stuff, but I mean, I guess I'm not an expert on what Fred Durst looks like, but I was surprised. I was like, oh, that was him.
I know what he looks like, but I feel like I know what he looks like from 20 years ago. So it
he doesn't have the backwards hat. I don't
exactly. Yeah, if he's not wearing a hat, he just looks like a random bald man. So it's hard to tell. I recognize the actress who plays Owen's mum. I couldn't have told you what from immediately, but it's actually something I'm watching right now for a sponsored thing. She's in Station 11. I was like, that's where I know her from. Yeah, I think it's playful with its ideas. It's got, but I think more than anything, it nails this very intense like tone and atmosphere. A little bit dreamlike in some ways, but that idea of like the allure and aura of loving a TV show, especially when you're young and like whatever your favorite TV show is at that time. And for me, it probably was Buffy the Vampire Slayer at that age. there is kind of an aura to it, and the idea of having to tune in at the specific time, and just like all these little details kind of add up to build a very intense atmosphere. And when I say intense, I don't mean like it's intense and like you're always tense kind of way. I just mean intense in the sense that it's very thick, it's very like rich, and so and that stuff is great. I think it has a constant vibe the whole time. It's got a lot to say, and by the end it does kind of end in a very surprising way, which did leave me thinking about what the ending meant, which was something we'll talk about in spoilers. So which is not surprising given how open the director's previous film was. That also kind of ended in a way where you could sort of like think about and theorize what the movie was doing. Was something real? Was it not real? Did the character really do this thing? Did they not? It was kind of open for that interpretation, and this kind of is as well to a certain extent.
Imagine doing a good movie.
I know.
On this show.
But it is also not like a normal traditional horror movie as well, so don't go in expecting that. There's definitely some stuff from the TV show that's kind of playing with some like kind of fun horror ideas, and there's definitely a couple of moments of existential kind of dread or emotion that feel like very horror and how intense they are, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I feel like. Because I feel like so many people would be like, "Oh, it's not really a horror movie," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, in the sense that there isn't a slasher character hunting people down, but I don't know, there's other forms of horror, and there's so much like parts where the characters are scared, and like I felt, their horror, and then in terms of like." I guess the horror of like sometimes of just life and stuff. So you're talking about existential dread and stuff can be just as terrifying as like someone chasing you through the woods.
It's very interesting because both this director's movies now kind of fall into this like weird middle ground where, like, I guess you could call them dramas technically if you really stretch, but there's so much more going on in how they work that it feels that's a disservice. And while they're not full-on horror movies, they're definitely, if I had to pick a genre to say they're inching towards something, they're definitely inching towards horror more than they are any other genre. So,
like, no, that's fair. Yeah,
like it's not a comedy. It's definitely not a western. So,
there's one there's one character that made me laugh. The one guy that I did recognize was the guy that plays his manager, Connor O'Malley, who's like a very funny stand-up and is in a lot of sketch stuff I like, but I couldn't help but laugh when he was usually on screen.
I didn't know him, so it did not stick out to me, but fair enough. So I think we'll have to give a spoiler warning, I think, to properly get into it, but it's a very hypnotic movie. I would definitely recommend it if you like the idea of a
movie.
I mean, sure. Yes, I was thinking maybe something more specific than that, but yes, if you're in the mood for a movie, maybe I saw the TV Glow. If you have nostalgia for watching TV shows as a kid, you'll probably get some vibes from that as well. Especially the idea that it's an escape from life as well. That it's escaping whatever your home life is, whatever shit you're going through at school. If you're if you're a bit of a loner who doesn't really get on with people, you'll probably find something to relate to here.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, how maybe younger people will find it, because so much stuff was hitting for me, like you're saying, like having to be at a specific time and place to actually watch the show, or like making videotapes, or like having like episode guides instead of just obviously being able to stream anything at any time. I mean, so much of that stuff feels like it is aimed directly at like people around our age. So I'm wondering how maybe younger people feel about it.
Yeah, I wonder. I assume the director must be. They're 1987, so they're about your age.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. So, spoilers for I Saw the TV Glow. You have been warned. So, I mean, just to get it out the way to start with, I mean, this entire film is an allegory for discovering who you really are when you don't feel like you belong or fit in, and specifically the idea of being trans is kind of the core thing. Although I mean, it does apply to both characters, and Maddie is just more just about being queer than it is about being trans, whereas the illusions for the main character actually not feeling like he talks about not feeling like there's something inside, like he doesn't belong, like he's different. It never gets like super specific with it. There's definitely a couple of strict illusions that it is about that, but it's more about just the general feeling of like you don't feel right, like something's off, and you're like,
yeah.
It was making me think a lot about The Matrix actually, in that most people didn't think about this when The Matrix came out, although I'm sure some trans people probably related to it in a way that a lot of us didn't see. But once the Wachowskis came out and you went back and watched The Matrix again, you could see, oh, this is about a character who feels like something's off, like they're not in the world they're supposed to be, and then over the course of the movie becomes who he's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
The moment in my mind from The Matrix that sticks out a lot now, knowing all that, is towards the end when Smith calls him Mr. Anderson again, and he says, "My name is Neo." Like, I was like, okay, the parallels, the allusions here are actually really thick, and it's kind of amazing almost, and maybe just shows how like sheltered or whatever many of us were to not pick up on some of this stuff from before. But hey, that's one of the beauties of art, is you get to relate to things and think about things in ways that you would never have thought of if you hadn't had someone make art that sort of showed, hey, this is how something feels, this existential dread of something not feeling right, like you're not the person you're supposed to be. Like, I can't understand how that feels on a day-to-day basis or feeling like that, but I can definitely get it from that movie like this. I can understand feeling like you are an outsider and that people look at you different, or that people never treat you normally, because this character in this movie, Owen, is definitely the few glimpses we get of other characters talking to him tends to be in a like subtly intimidating light or mocking light or whatever it might be. There's definitely kind of a feeling of being trapped.
Yeah, and the part that really like hammers it home is I think it's kind of towards the end when he's having, or maybe it's like right after he saw Maddie for the last time, I think he hears her voice and says something along the lines of like, oh, like you could come to this place and be this like beautiful, powerful version of yourself, and I guess we're in spoilers now, so we say like he ends up rejecting it, which is ultimately it makes it kind of sad, because
it's a sad story. It's a bummer.
He like rejects who he truly is or wants to be, instead kind of opts for this normalcy in life.
I think just as he's hearing that, actually there's a recurring theme in the movie where every so often there'll be like someone's like drawn in chalk on the road, and it looks kind of cool because it's like they're shining a black light on it or something, because it's kind of glows purple in a way. But one of the things that's written there is if Maddie's left a message, whether it's really there or not, but it says there's still time. There's still time, yeah. There's that idea that it's never too late to kind of be who you're supposed to be and accept who you're supposed to be, or whatever. But he's too sheltered, he's too closeted the whole movie to like again, like we're really specifically to being trans, and the fact that the director is trans obviously feeds into that. But like it can apply to a lot of different things. It's, it feels. It feels very much this idea of just being who you want to be or who you really are supposed to be, and like it not happening because you don't take the risk of, whatever it might be, right? Like of taking the chance and doing the thing that might lead to the life you want or something. Peter,
there's still time to admit that you like the boy. It's not too late. You can.
It may not be too late, but it's never happening.
We'll see. Someday you'll join me.
It's never happening, Tim. You can get that idea out of your head. So yeah, I mean the movie, like there's a couple of glimpses of older thingy at the start, but like it really starts in 1996, and it's the story of how he's watching TV and he sees a commercial for the Pink Opaque, which is a TV show. And normally when these sort of things come up in movies, like I'm always worried that I'm going to forget the name of it, but they say it so often in this movie that there was no way I'll remember the Pink Opaque for the rest of my days probably.
Yeah.
So it's
very memorable.
Yeah. So
even like the other characters like Tara and Isabella and like Mr. Melancholy, like it's it all seemed like well thought out. But...
yeah, those are the characters in the show, to make that clear, right? That's like there's two lead female characters in the show, and then the big bad, the villain, is Mr. Melancholy, which even that's symbolic. Like the idea that the villain is sadness itself. Like,
oh yeah.
You know, that's definitely feeding into everything that's going on in the movie. But you know, there's an allure to seeing this show. He wants to see the show.
Which is another like very relatable thing, especially at that time. Like I remember, like, you know, sometimes you just see a commercial for something and it's just like, I must see this. Like, what is this?
Yeah. And often you wouldn't be able to because maybe it's a movie, and like, you know, you don't get to go to the movies as much as you want, or you don't get to go to the movies for things that are R-rated or whatever it may be.
Or just as simple as like you have a bedtime, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is in this case, is that he's not allowed to stay up till 10:30, which is when the show airs on a Saturday. But yeah, like he meets Maddie, he sees her reading the episode guide, and even this feels alien, I think, to most people now, is the idea that they release books with just like information, because now you just look up IMDb or some shit, or like there'll be a fan wiki with more information than one of these books would have ever had back in the day. But he sees her reading this and he wants to go and talk to her. It's a bit awkward at first, like he tries to go talk to her and like he's not really paying attention to like what his mum's doing. I think his mum's like running for like local like office or something.
I think they were like voting, which is like because like a lot of times like in small towns, like the voting centers will be like at a school or something. And I guess that's like how you know it's 1996, because I think like, you know, she says something like, oh, I'm voting for like, you know, the saxophone man again or something, which is obviously referring to Bill Clinton.
That was because there's a moment where she has him do this thing where he runs his hand over like the names or something, and I thought it was like, oh, I want good luck from my boy or something like that. I don't know, it was a little moment, but it's I mean, once it gets into it though, it's more about him meeting Maddie, and like she's very like sort of like that sort of loner girl who doesn't want to like communicate, and she's you know, so it's a very awkward but kind of endearing conversation of both these two loners not wanting to talk to each other. But she, you know, does kind of like respond back, and she asks like what grade he's in, and he's like, oh, I'm in 7th grade, and she's like, oh, you're a baby, because she's in 9th grade, I think she said. Which, Tim, as an American, tell me, what age are these two kids based on those grades?
So 7th grade, I think that would be about 12, and 9th grade would be about
14 then.
14. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that should be about right. Yeah, that should be right.
Okay. It's just cute. I was trying to work it out. But yeah, so like she asks him about it because she's almost a little disappointed when he says he's not seen the show, but he wants to, and he starts talking about that, but he's not allowed to stay up late, and it kind of ends almost like a little cliffhanger. But like clearly she had a suggestion for how he might be able to see it, because she mentions that she watches it with her friend every week. But this is where it gets kind of interesting in how it starts to like set up some stuff here, or like tease some certain things, because he asks his mum, can I go to this sleepover on Saturday, and he like gives a boy's name of someone that he used to maybe like have play dates with or something, and the mum's like, oh, you'll have to ask your father. And the way he says after an awkward pause, can you ask him for me, kind of like builds an idea of like, oh, he's scared to ask his dad this. And now, is his dad a bad guy, or is this just a like, oh, he's a bit more strict, so it's just like there's nothing weird about this necessarily, but it definitely paints like a little seed in your mind that oh, maybe like there is kind of an intimidation thing with the dad, like what's going on there.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that, because it's not like we ever see the dad being like violent or like, you know, angry or anything, but he is very much this like imposing presence. And then like I think that, you know, the other really big telling scene with him is when they're driving in the car and he asks like, oh, can I stay up to watch the Pinko Pig, and like it's very quiet, and then the dad just says like, isn't that a girl's show? Yeah, and he just like immediately like shuts up.
That line says a lot, and I really have to emphasize how long they draw out the silence of him not taking part in the conversation until he eventually says that line. And keep in mind, that's after a 2-year time jump, so he's like 16 at that point. Yeah, you know, and he's still not allowed to stay up past. I think his bedtime's moved from 10 to 10:15, and he's like, all the kids in my grade don't have bedtimes anymore. Why are we still doing it? But it does give you this idea that the dad's controlling and kind of lashes out. I mean, maybe not physically, but the idea that he'll be judged for anything that makes him different. So that maybe is why he's so scared of like even exploring the idea of who he is. Not that even if you have loving parents, it's easy to go through the process of realizing these things, that you're coming of age or whatnot, but it's a very interesting sort of thing where it's like, yeah, he's never outwardly actually violent, but there's always like, he's presented as such an imposing, intimidating figure that you feel like he could be, and we just don't know. Like, did it ever actually happen, or was it just like, no, he will not appreciate anything. Like, he knows his son's different in some way, like even if it's unspoken, he clearly doesn't approve that his son's like a bit weird, or not just a normal macho dude kind of thing.
Yeah, and he can just be like, you know, even if he's not like physically violent or something, if he's like emotionally walled off, like, you know, sometimes that can be, you know, its own thing too.
And this is Fred Durst, by the way. That's Fred Durst, which I was not expecting. So fair enough.
I mean, sorry, we're jumping all over the place, but I did have a question about the time jump, and I was just curious. I don't know if you saw anything into this or anything, but I feel like, you know, the actor that plays Owen, it's Justice Smith, is that the name?
Yes, that's him.
He's like I mean, you know, he's not like in his 40s or anything, I doubt, but he seems like a you know, an older guy, like a little old to be playing like a 9th grader. And I was just wondering, I don't know, do you think there's any like significance to, in 7th grade, he's like, looks like the actor that's playing him looks like very young and of that age, but then
so just to clarify,
2 years later.
Just to clarify here, so the kid version, which we're in now, 1996, is a different actor. It's a child actor playing the role. But when we skip 2 years and he's like 14, 15, that's when we transition to Justice Smith, and then it's him for the rest of the movie. Yeah, and then, I don't know, I was just curious if there was like, if you think, or if there's anything, maybe any reason that you think that it's like, oh, it, you know, they didn't bother to have another younger actor for that time period, or, you know, they didn't really do much to, I feel like, make him look that much younger. Like, it's not like he looks like middle-aged, but no, he definitely looked older to me. He's a pretty young-looking dude. Because they did the same with Maddie. Maddie has one actress. They didn't give her a different actress for the first part. I think they basically decided the cutoff was like, once they're like 15, that they can just be the same actor from that point, and we'll roll with it. I'm just used to like actors in their 20s playing teenagers. It didn't even faze me a bit. I don't know. I just thought it was like interesting, because I was just trying to wonder if there's some significance to that, or I mean, I don't know if like he's even still in his 20s. He might have actually crossed over it, but into the 30 threshold. But it's not like super distracting, because he's, like you said, he's a younger looking person. You know, so it's not that big a deal. But I just thought that was interesting. So he pretends he's having this sleepover, and it sounds like the mum has to put up a bit of a fight for it to happen, which is again weird. Like, why is the dad this controlling? And we don't see him yet. Like, we don't actually see him really until that scene in the car after the time jump. Like, here we just hear a bit of muffled voices like down. And interestingly, it's like you get the glow of the TV coming from the main room as Owen walks past. So that recurring theme of the TV glow. It's not just when he's watching TV. It's like when anyone's watching TV, you get the idea of the glow of the other world kind of seeping through. But he goes, and there's a really tense moment here where he obviously isn't having a sleepover with this kid that he said he was. So he goes up to the door, and he just sort of like turns around, and the mum's waiting in the car. Like, she clearly wants to sit there until the door's open and he's safe. But he turns around and waves as if to say, "Go, Mom, you're embarrassing me." Right. And like, it's like, will she? And she does drive off, but it's like a tense moment. Not like a super threatening way, but just tense in like an awkward way. Like, oh, this is going to all come crashing down around him if he has to actually press the buzzer. And I kept thinking like something was going to happen where someone would open the door, or she would call the house later on to see like how it's going, and that doesn't really come up. But if anything, it almost kind of like showed how, I don't know, like how disconnected the parents were from him. It never got caught out. They never actually figured it out or even checked up enough to make sure. Like, I'm not saying the mum doesn't care about him. I think she clearly does, but clearly just with the, you know, the husband she's got or whatever, like the life she's like, just, you know, like there's other things going on that he's not getting quite the focus perhaps that he should be getting as a child.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if the mom was already sick at that time, but eventually
it's after the time jump.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I mean, it's possible she already knew she had something at this point, but they don't hint at that.
But yeah, I mean, once that's like going on, though, obviously, like, you know, it's probably even more of a, you know, like less of a concern to them. Going on.
Yeah. So he walks over to Maddie's house. She's with her friend, and they're doing like, you know, painting nails and talking about boys or something. Like they're doing typical girl shit, which is interesting because we obviously, as we find out, Maddie is kind of like, you know, not into that really. Like, you know, we find out very quickly after the time jump that she is definitely gay. In fact, she even says, maybe even before the time jump, she mentions one of the characters in the show being hot. So it's like that's kind of your first hint, and then she kind of confirms it later because she thinks Owen's like hitting on her. And she's like, you know, I'm into girls, right? And that's a very illuminating conversation, actually, because when she hits back, well, do you like girls? And he's like, And then she's like, boys? And he's like, I like TV shows. And I'm like, okay. So it really paints that idea that he is unsure of like who he is sexually, whatever it might be. But it really starts to open up that door and kind of get you thinking about like kind of the hole that the entertainment's filling and like being lost in this other world with the TV show. Because it's like when they're watching the TV show, they're in a trance almost, like they're in awe of the glow and all that. So this is, you know, where he gets to see his first episode. He gets to watch whatever episode's airing.
And it is kind of funny too. Like she doesn't even like let him in his house. Like she kind of or he has to kind of like go in himself, and then they kind of just look at him and then like go on about like what they're doing. Yeah,
they basically don't acknowledge him that much. It's almost like she offered this suggestion for him to come over and watch the show, but then it's like, oh, I never thought he would actually show up. He's just a kid. But I guess he's here now, so sit down and enjoy the show.
I don't know. So much of this stuff, though, like, did feel like really true to life. Like, I don't know. I feel like I had those instances where, you just talk to like a random kid at school and they're like, oh yeah, like we can do this or that or whatever, and then like you see them later and they're like, oh, like I didn't think you were gonna come. Like, okay, whatever. Like I don't know, like a lot of this stuff like was like obviously not the exact same scenarios, but like there's a lot of stuff I can relate to, and like thinking back about that time when you're just so awkward, or you meet other people that are awkward.
Well, I think that's the thing, the awkward vibe is just so relatable, because I feel like as kids most people do go through at least a little bit of that. Maybe the super popular like normal people don't, but like I feel like most of the outsiders definitely do. So yeah, we get this glimpse of the show and we see, like I said, this is where you see the credits, the Buffy credits and whatnot, but yeah, like, so we kind of learn more about the show. We learned a little bit of it before from like hearing about it from her, but it like, so it's these two girls who met once at sleepaway camp, which that may also be a reference to a horror movie. Although, given the ending of that movie, that may not even be unintentional. That actually may be a very particular choice
I didn't think about that.
to pick that movie. I never thought of that either until I said it out loud there. Oh, nice. Okay. Interesting choice. But whilst they're at summer camp, they meet and they bond and realize they're the pink opaque. And effectively the premise of the show seems to be that they're states away. They don't see each other in person, but they can like mentally link up and talk to each other via their superpower, and they're fighting various monsters of the week over the like states. So it seemed from the like what we see that the monster always seems to be where Isabel is, because Tara's the one that seems to stay at the camp. And Tara has to help out by explaining to Isabel like how to fight the thing. But the big bad is Mr. Melancholy, who's like the man in the moon, and you get this cheesy effect where there's a big face in the moon and it looks kind of old school and stop motiony, and it's kind of cool though. They're definitely going for like a overly fake but charming vibe for the show itself in the movie. Yeah,
no, I love every instance where they're showing stuff in the show, like, because this 100% would have been a show that I would have been obsessed with, like as a kid. Like if they put it on now, I would probably be obsessed with it.
But Tim, it's a show for girls. Come on now.
That's true. What does that say about me? But no, I love like the like effect. Like it does feel very cheap, but in a like, you know, it's harkening back to like that age of filmmaking, and I just love whenever someone is able to like really capture that the feeling and that look and that aesthetic.
If anything, I would feel like, I mean, part of it, maybe it's because the face in the moon, it makes me think of A Trip to the Moon, which is like an old silent movie from like the start of like the 1900s. But it makes me think, like, because you see this like villain in this episode, it's like this ice cream monster dude, and I was like, this looks like a Power Rangers villain. It's like it's crossing over Power Rangers with Buffy, and two things I was into whilst growing up. So like you're hitting some notes for me.
It's funny you mentioned Power Rangers, because something later on in the movie made me think about that too. We'll get there, but I love the look of it, and it's like, it's one of those things where it is it's that extra level of like darker than it should be, because it like like the ice cream man just like looks so like weird and like over the top, like gross and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, this is not something you would expect to see on like a young adult network, I think they called it. And then I think the ones that I thought were even creepier were like the like moon face twins. I think they're like Marco and Polo, like whenever they would show up and they're dancing. I
didn't realize that was their name. I thought they were just doing Marco Polo at one point. I didn't realize that was their names. Maybe that's what they're doing. I assume that was their names, but I could be wrong. But I don't know if this necessarily applies, because I don't know if I quite know exactly what this is, but this reminded me of like liminal horror. Just this kind of like, define that for me, Tim, because I don't know what you just said.
I don't think that was crap. What was that? Like Skinamarink was like a very liminal horror, which I don't know. Like, maybe I'm getting the definition wrong, but I thought it was just like stuff that feels very. I don't know, maybe it's hard to describe, but maybe there's like a look to it where it feels like very like, I guess maybe like grainy and like kind of older, but like something is kind of like off and twisted.
It's lo-fi. Maybe something like
lo-fi is a good way to say it.
Yeah, maybe like season 1 of Channel Zero has elements of that. Is the TV show. I get what you're trying to say. Every time we see the show, it's interesting. It feels like obviously it's hitting certain themes, and because of the premise of the show, I was convinced that the two characters were going to get split up, because like, it's going to mirror the show because these two characters are far apart. Now, it didn't mirror it exactly like I thought it would. It ended up obviously doing its own thing, but when the time jump happens and the second time he stays at her house and she's like, I'm leaving, like I can't be here, it's going to kill me to have to stay in this town with like these parents and everything, and it's implied that he's going to go with her because now he won't be able to see the show anymore, because what happens in the time between is that she starts like taping episodes for him and like gives him tapes and leaves him in the dark room at school for him, because she's in like the photography club is the word I was trying to say there.
There's a really great scene of just him walking down the hallway, and as he's walking, like there's drawings of the tape start appearing on the screen, and like doodles and stuff. I guess that's probably like notes that she's leaving him.
I was assuming this was all stuff that she was putting on the label, like she was drawing all this stuff on all the labels for the tapes.
Yeah, and then it's great that like I love kind of the little bits of lore you get from the show. Jesus. From like these notes and stuff that appear on the screen, like some of the episode descriptions and like some of the comments she makes on it. Again, it does such a good job of, even though you don't see a ton of it, like you already feel invested in the show. Obviously from the characters' investments, but just like from the little bits that they give you here and there.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool sequence. And what's interesting is the time jump happens, right, basically after he leaves the house that morning. And there's a couple of little bits here where he can't really leave because he said he was staying over somewhere, so he has to kind of spend the night. And that's sort of delightfully awkward in its own right. But after the time jump happens, it does this thing where he starts like talking to the camera occasionally to narrate the show or to narrate the movie, and that adds like a different vibe. And it's definitely a very pointed like difference, because it's not there at all in that first like 20-30 minutes. Like it's not a single part of that has narration. But all of a sudden, he starts just looking towards the camera and explaining, "Oh, it's been a couple of years, but she leaves me tapes now, and I've seen like most of the episodes, and he goes into all that stuff." So, like that's all good, right? And we find out that the mum's sick, and it's not that long until she dies. And this is where we get the scene in the car where the dad says, "Isn't that a show for girls?" But it sounds like even 2 years later, and he's older, he's still not allowed to stay up and watch this show. So. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So, but it's this idea that he's found something that he's connecting to. He's connecting to another person, and it's something he has to keep secret from his parents. There's a great moment when he's watching one of the tapes. He's rewatching one of the episodes, and the dad like comes out to the kitchen for something, and he like quickly turns it off and like ejects the tape. Now, admittedly, I don't think I ever did this with something I was like scared to let anyone know I was watching, outside of the obvious, which was porn, which was like, oh, no one can know I'm watching porn. I'm not supposed to be watching that. I don't think I ever turned anything off out of shame, though, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how the younger generation feels now, but like when you see people talk about stuff online, like people have such a reverence for even like the crappy things, like any crappy movie that comes out, there always be like some person that will be defending it, and I'm waiting for you to jump in to make a joke, but
I wasn't even thinking of one.
But
was this supposed to be something about the boy and you being one of these shitty people? Yeah, okay, there you go, that's a joke.
Yeah. I knew it was coming. But yeah, like nowadays, like I feel like people are much more like prouder of being into geeky things, and again, it's hard to think of like a time when there was stuff that you wouldn't be like forthright with telling people like, oh yeah, I like this, like, and stuff like Star Wars and anime, like when I was younger, like that wasn't always like the cool thing to talk about. Now it's just such like standard pop culture stuff, but yeah, at a time like you wouldn't necessarily want to tell people that you like that.
Yeah, there was a time where you had to come out the closet as a Star Trek fan, but that's no longer the case. There's been progress, people, in all forms. He ends up going back to see Maddie. He sees her at school on the bleachers, so keeping in mind, he's now in the grade she was in when they met, and now she's in 11th grade. And
then I'm sorry, so it's kind of interesting because I think she's been making tapes for him all this time, but like it don't seem like they really actually hang out or anything.
No, like, it's very much like she does this for him because she sees like a reason for it. Obviously, she sees it's important to him, and but it's definitely something they're both hiding. And I think that's kind of the point, is that her, like, even though she's open about being gay and she's sort of, she knows that about herself and she says that to him in this scene, it definitely seems like something that, I don't know if she's open to her parents about it, or if she is, it seems to be maybe a source of conflict. She's kind of trapped here and can't just be who she wants to be, even if she knows what she wants to be or who she is.
Hence the talk about needing to leave and the town's going to kill her if she doesn't get out. And
because there's definitely some tones at points in this movie where I felt like it was starting to talk about suicide, and definitely like this is one of the first times that comes up, is like when he comes over to watch the show again, and we find out that the friend from before isn't her friend anymore. She turns out to be, like a preppy cheerleader or something like that, and we find out that she spread a rumor that that Maddie tried to touch her boob, which Maddie says isn't true, but it's, even though it's kind of a funny line when she says it because it's so abrasive and just like, oh, she said I tried to touch her tit, which is so not true. It does kind of present this idea that the source of conflict at some point was the idea that she was gay, right? Whether or not she tried to do anything or didn't, whether or not she tried to not try to touch her, but maybe he should try to just approach the subject of like, hey, are you also gay? And, or maybe, you know, it didn't go so well. She reacted badly, you know. So
I wonder if that's like a kind of like a common experience a lot of like kids have maybe when they're coming out, because I feel like I've seen that definitely in other movies or shows where, you know, a friendship gets strained or something because someone comes out or whatever. So it's interesting. And one thing I liked about the scene too is you know, I thought the actress, you know, played it very well, where again they're so awkward and quiet, but when he brings up the friend, like she gets like very angry, and all of a sudden she's like,
she's very emotive at that point.
So that's a nice little touch.
So he ends up back over. He says, can I come back over and watch an episode as it airs? And I've been loving the tapes, but I want to watch it as it airs. Which basically to me feel like he wants the shared experience. He wants to be with someone else who, on some level, knows this private thing about him, even though this private thing about him is just a TV show. But it's still something he's keeping secret from everyone because it's like an extension of his identity. So, you know, once again, they watch the show together, and I think we do see some of this episode as well when they're watching it. You know, we see snippets throughout the movie, like when it cuts back to it when it's relevant. But this is where she talks about wanting to leave, and he's like, but how am I going to see the show now? Like, you know, I can't watch the show. And it's implied that he, you know, seems to have reluctantly agreed that he will go with her, because she says, hey, make sure you know, pack a bag as much as you can next time you come over next week, and we'll go. And it's a very interesting sort of like end of Act 1 for the movie, where we follow his like sad walk back to the house that he's been picked up from, you know, the like Tommy's house that he's supposed to have been having a sleepover at, and it's actually Tommy's mum, who's Amber Benson from Buffy.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. I didn't even recognize it. That's awesome. Yeah.
So there's a Tara in this, and the Tara from Buffy is also in this. But he actually like rings the doorbell, and in a moment where he completely breaks down, begs her to like tell his dad that he lied about where he was going, because we find out that this time, because the mum's either in hospital or already dead by this point, that the dad's just kind of being this like, you know, entity that's not really policing him. He's just kind of around, still strict about the bedtime, you know, obviously by the sounds of it, but he just breaks down and he says like, no, like I have to get in trouble and get grounded. I can't go with her. Like he basically like imprisons himself, so he doesn't even have the choice of like going with Maddie. And that's where the sort of the metaphor of the movie really started to feel like it was starting to take shape, where it's like, oh, she's taking the chance at a better life, even though it's scary to come out and be who you want to be. But he is so terrified of being that, maybe because of the attitude that his dad has or whatever it is, but he is so terrified of it, he has to like turn it down. And what makes the ending of this movie so sad is that I think most people, when they see this part of the movie, will assume that he's too scared to do it now, but if he gets another chance later, the uplifting end to the story is going to be that he does go through with it later when he's finally ready. But the sad truth is that he doesn't, and it makes the ending really like a total downer in so many ways. I mean, there's that hopeful little tinge of, you know, there's still time, there's always still time, but he's not there yet. And like, you know, by that point we've like went through so many time jumps, and we're past 2010 by the time we get to the end of it. So anyway, but like this is where that really started to like take shape for me, was this like the way he does this, the way he doesn't just choose to go, he like makes sure he doesn't even have the choice to go, is you know, really sad.
You know, which again, I'm sure is something like a lot of people can relate to, where you even though something seems, and I mean, I've done this before, where you kind of self-sabotage yourself because it's like, oh yeah, I could go after this thing, but then what if I'm not good at it, or you know, if people don't like me when I'm doing this or going here or whatever. So yeah, maybe it's better to just not do that, even though it sounds like a good opportunity or whatever. So again, like, you know, it's playing on a lot of themes that are, you know, very relatable and kind of, you know, hitting hard. one thing that I think is really interesting is how, like, we never really see like what the fallout for Maddie is with this.
No.
Like, we hear about it, like, you know, like it sounds very like vague, like he says, like, oh yeah, like, you know, she kind of disappears and everything later on, but yeah, like, you know, it seemed like her home life was like a little more dangerous because I think she talks about like, oh, like my stepfather, I think it was stepfather, is gonna like break my nose again or whatever. And so you assume that if Owen is, you know, telling this mom that, oh, she's gonna make me leave, then they're probably gonna contact her, and then the dad will know, and then it sounds like all this stuff that's not good. And I thought it was just an interesting choice that we never really see exactly what happens.
Yeah, well, it gives it this kind of ominous vibe. Obviously, it's not what the metaphor is or what the movie's going for by the time Maddie shows back up and all that, but there was definitely a moment where I thought, is like there an implication that maybe leaving meant committing suicide? And now that's obviously not what happens, but it definitely felt ominous the way that it was, you know, there was police tape going up, they're treating it like a missing person, and the only thing they found was her TV set on fire, like in the back of the house, and that's kind of weird and ominous, you know, in so many ways. Obviously that's very representative of like what the movie's saying about what this TV show represents for these two characters, is that she's saying, no, I'm not escaping through a TV show anymore, I'm actually going to be what I am. You know, and that's what the TV burning kind of represents for her. But I don't think that became clear to me until later when I got more context of what the show means to both of them and like the way it keeps going.
Yeah, and then it's interesting too, they mentions like around the same time that she leaves that the show is canceled.
Yes,
which is like kind of like, oh, okay, this opportunity is, you know, closing for you. Like if you don't, you know, I don't know.
It's like the one positive force in his life that was maybe leading him to actually, you know, accept who he is or come out about who he is or be willing to think about it and like, you know, reach some sort of positive mental health like conclusion or something. And it seems like that door's closed with her, so the TV show ends with her. It's very, you know, serendipitous in that way, which is a choice. And it cuts ahead there from then 8 years. We skip ahead 8 years, and he is, you know, well, if he's like 15 here, so he's like 23ish, give or take. When we skip ahead, we're in the early 2000s at this point, and we see that he still loves with his dad. His dad seems to have had a stroke at some point. There's a great moment when he comes home from work or whatever it is, and like the dad's just sitting there and doesn't say anything. And again, just the glow of the TV's hitting him. And it's like, this is not a happy life. Like, especially since the first thing that he says when he gets in is, I'm sorry I'm late. There was like a electric pole had fallen out of the road or something. And I'm like, why are you apologizing? You're an adult. You came home from work. Like, you don't have to be policed like this.
Oh yeah, that's like a big thing too, because like earlier he apologized to Matt and he says like never apologize, and then, you know, we keep seeing him doing it throughout the movie, and that's true. Yeah, I wasn't even
thinking about that, but you're right. Yeah, because it even ends with him apologizing. So yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, we should talk about that though. So we see like his life now. You watch that in a movie theater, which is kind of an extension of a TV show, right? Like, you know, you got movies, and we even see like a really cheesy, bad CGI movie in the screen at one point of this like robot, which gave me a good chuckle. But there's a whole thing here, which again adds back into these themes of him kind of like ignoring anything that's sexual. He just doesn't want to deal with it. Where he walks in on like one of the other, I think it's maybe even the manager. But it's he walks into the office, and the manager's with a woman, you know, getting a blowjob or something like that. And it's like this sort of thing where it's awkward for a second, but then the manager kind of laughs it off because like, oh, I got caught having a blowjob. Oh, what a shame. Like, you know, good day for me. But in the very next scene with this guy, like he's chastising and kind of making fun of Owen for like, hey, did you like what you saw when you walked in? You know, I could put in a good word for you with her. Like you know, and then he gets annoyed that Owen's not like making eye contact with him, and like I felt this idea of like someone saying, no, be normal and be sociable, and I'm like, no, I'm weird, leave me alone, I'm not harming anyone.
Again, this is like another thing I found really relatable, because I definitely, like, not this exact scenario where like I walked in on someone and stuff, but I've definitely, you know, been at jobs where like people are just like way too open about like their sex lives or something, and you know, not that I'm like a prude or anything, but it's like It's like, come on, I really want to hear about this. Can't we just talk about like a TV show or something?
Yeah, I'm just walking over to get my morning drink. I don't like to hear about how you pulled out and came all over our tits. Right. Like
exactly.
Like, that's not the time and place. Oh dear. So right, so it sets up that, you know, this life that he's in. He stayed in his cage, right? He's in the cage of the small town. He's literally staying at the same house, all the rest of it. But on his way home, yeah, it's like an electrical pole's falling over, but it's like more supernatural in that, because the TV glow is coming from like a fissure in the ground. That's what it feels like. And there's like pages like floating around, and he looks down and sees what the pages are, and it's pages from the TV guide of the episode guide for the TV show. And this didn't make like much of an impact at the time until a later scene came up. But notably, this page that he picks up and looks at says season 6, episode 1, which is notable because later on we find out the show got cancelled at the end of season 5. The final episode was season 5's finale. So it kind of felt like, hey, it can continue. If you take the next step in your life, you can start season 6. So that's kind of like, but that was more of a hindsight thing, because I didn't know that this was like past its number. Like when I first looked at this.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't realize that at the time, and then that's a good catch.
Yeah, because I caught it when she said, like, hey, you remember the last episode, the season 5 finale? I'm like, wait a minute, that book said season 6. Yeah. What's going on? So yeah, it sets all this stuff up, and it's all whatever, and like, again, miserable life, all this. He's you know, watching the tapes again sometimes and whatnot, but he's in the supermarket getting some stuff. It's very quiet and desolate, and all of a sudden he turns around and there she's standing. He doesn't even recognize her at first, because it's been 8 years and she's got her hair cut and all the rest of it, and she's like, do you remember me? And I almost think that like some of these like experiences that he's just went through have made him think about himself again, and that's why, you know, if you think about it, of like happening because like something like triggers it in the story, that's kind of what it is. It's like, you know, like if you even consider the idea that Maddie, like, you know, towards the end of the story, it may not even be real. Like all the stuff with Maddie from this point on might just be in his head. I don't think the movie necessarily implies that, but like it could be. Like there's no reason to, like, no one else talks to her or sees her. So
that's true. Yeah.
Like it very well could be. But he realizes who she is, and he wants to know where she's been, and she's like, I'll tell you, but come to this place. So they go to this bar, which this is actually, I did see some people compare this to David Lynch a little bit, and if you compare this to Mulholland Drive, which is also a movie that talks a lot about like escaping into movies and like the idea of the dream of being a movie star, and like using it to like get away from your horrible reality. That's a big theme in Mulholland Drive. That also has like a bit in the middle where they just go to the theater and like we hear a whole song that's sort of related to the plot, you know, the Silencio scene. This is kind of like that, where there's actually two bands that both at the start and the end of the scene, and one of them even says in the song lyrics, "I saw the TV glow." So like they have that whole moment, but in between they're talking, and she's like, "I'll tell you everything, but I want to ask you a question first." And he's like, "Okay, what do you want to ask?" And she says, "Do you remember that TV show we used to watch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does. Like it's like, kind of like the highlight of his childhood." And he's like, "Yeah, Pink Opaque, yeah." And like, forgive me for not remembering the exact sort of build up to like the bombshell that she's getting to, but
I remember, like, I think one thing she mentioned was like, oh, like, have you started like doing this? And then I think one thing she says, like, oh, have you started like narrating?
Yes.
Like, you're like in a movie or something. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, you started narrating your life, and this time seemed to pass, and I sort of like, oh, that sounds like it's like getting meta, and it's talking about the time jumps, because later on, like the last big time jump that happens, like towards like, you know, 2010 or whatever, the narration that he's given at that point says time seems to move like, you know, years move by in seconds, and I thought, yeah, it literally just did in the movie because we skipped ahead 10 years. So I thought they were doing some interesting little meta touches with that, but yes, but between this scene and the next scene where she really gets sort of like into it with this scene where they're inside the it's like an inflatable thing with like a projector, so it's like there's all the star signs are like sort of like projecting around the inside of this inflatable. That's not like a bouncy castle, but it's kind of
it's like, yeah, it's like a, oh god, what do you call it, like like a dome, I guess. Just
yeah, I guess for lack of a better word, I'll say it's a big tent inside like the school gym. I mean, I will say this for the movie, they seem to come and go into that school even once they're not students, as if no one cares, which is a bit weird. But you know, whatever. It's not a big concern.
I wasn't. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I wasn't sure if it was the school or if it was the like arcade fun center place that he worked, but I guess it probably was the school, right? I'll be honest, I'm not really sure like exactly what the significance of it was, but visually it looked really cool. Like, a nice like visual component to when she's monologuing.
It kind of harkened back to a moment earlier on in the movie. I mean, we kind of glossed over this because it was just some of the stuff that was happening when he was a kid. But there was a scene where that day in gym class where they did, and I actually, funnily enough, I remember doing this in primary school.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
With like I think it was like technically a parachute, but it was like you know, the kids all sort of like. I guess I didn't realize this was such a common thing, but apparently whoever made the movie knew about this and you know about this, so clearly kids do this in school. But you know, the class like all holds the edge of the parachute, and then you sort of go under it or whatever, and you do various exercises with everyone holding the parachute. But there's a moment here where they hold it and they sort of like puff it up. But Owen, young kid Owen's like sort of walks around and looks up at it, and it's, you know, it's very much like this scene where Maddie's talking to him, and I wonder if you know, this idea that he's surrounded by the quote-unquote normies or something, they're going for something here. I don't know quite what this represents, maybe other than that he's trapped in their world kind of thing. But, you know, interesting all the same. But anyway, she gets to the crazy idea. This is where we start going wild with this, is that she says where she went was the show, right? I mean, not if she says that she went to a different city and she got a job at a mall and she realized she felt just as bad there. They didn't fix anything. But then she paid someone, like a stranger basically, someone she barely knew, to bury her alive. Now, she didn't tell him that's what he was doing. The guy just thought he was burying a coffin. But she put herself in the coffin and talked about getting scared and how it was a big thing and she couldn't fight her way out. But what I actually did is that it transported her to the TV show. And
I think the reason she did this was because it was basically mimicking the last episode of the show.
When they were at the bar, that's when they talked about the last episode. And we see a big chunk of the last episode of the TV show, which is, the TV show had a very bad ending, Tim. It was a very sad ending. Imagine you're watching a TV show for 5 seasons and at the end of the show, both main characters get buried alive and die. Like, that's what a downer ending that would be.
Especially, like, I know, like, you know, it's supposed to be one of those shows that was like, oh, it's a kid show, but it's a little dark for a kid show. But I'm like, all right, well, no kid show would go this dark where like the characters' hearts are getting ripped out and stuff.
No, basically the final episode of the show is that the two main characters who have been like astral projecting to each other to talk are finally going to meet again because like Mr. Melancholy's up to no good and started having trouble in their neighborhood. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. No, I do just want to jump in because like a lot of this seemed to be very like paying a lot of homage to Buffy, but I don't know. I was wondering if any of this was maybe also relating to Angel, because Angel was 5 seasons as well, right?
Well, Buffy was 7, but Angel was 5. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant. Angel was 5. Yeah, like as well as the Pink Opaque, and then it also did kind of have like, I think that the ending of that show is, you know, a bit more uplifting, but also like, you know, some kind of downer stuff happens and it is like a bit of a cliffhanger. You know. So I was wondering if that was maybe in the cards there too.
Yeah, I'm sure the director liked the show regardless, but maybe it was a big deal to them that there was a openly gay character on Buffy at a certain point, which wasn't as common in the 90s. That might have been a thing. But yeah, anyway, what was I getting to? Yeah, so the final episode of the TV show is like the two characters are going to meet together, but it's actually a trap. Tara, who was at the camp already, had already been like buried alive by the villain Mr. Melancholy, and then Mr. Melancholy gets Isabel, the other character, and pulls out her heart and puts her into a grave, and it
also makes them like drink this like lunar juice, which seems really gross to me.
So I don't know if my name's Mr. Or well, no, his name's not Mr. Moon, but if my whole thing was I'm moon themed, and then I said here have a drink of my lunar juice, that would sound a bit dirty to me. But
I agree.
But so but the idea being that like somehow like this was like an awakening where Maddie woke up and became Tara. She's basically saying that she is really Tara, and that this world that they are in. Because I think in the TV show they mentioned that when they buried the two of them alive, they went to this like bad other place. Like I can't remember what they called it, but it was like, you know, let's call it the bad place, right? They go to the bad place, and she's saying we're in the bad place, and we're actually Tara and Isabel, and that's where the trans allegory really comes to light, because it's like, I mean, there was a little bit of a hint before this. I think when she's saying, "Hey, do you remember like a lot of like what we did when we were watching that show?" And I don't know if this really happened or not necessarily, but there is like sort of these flashbacks that kind of, they only suggest it at first, but then you see it outright that when he was at her house, he tried on a dress at one point. So that kind of like seeds that. And it's the dress that Isabel wore in the episode that I think it was the first commercial we saw of the show, teasing the drain demons or whatever it was. Isabel was walking through the football field wearing this like pink dress. And then we see Owen wearing that pink dress walking through the football field. So,
and I think there's like a little clip where I feel like they cut to a couple of times where I don't think you see him in like the full dress, but it's more like kind of you see like, you know, the straps like coming up, but you can tell that he's wearing it, and he gives like a little bit of a smile. And I could be wrong, but I feel like it's the only time in the movie he actually smiles.
Oh, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, that was what I was talking about when this sort of subtly suggests that before you see it outright. But you're right, I think he does smile. And then
like, even when he's like talking about the pink opaque, which is like, you know, the most important thing to him, I feel like he doesn't smile when he's talking about it.
No. So that's a really good point. But this is like an interesting idea. Like if you're just sort of like following the movie's plot and taking it all literal, I'm like, even if there wasn't like the more hard hitting places it goes. Like, you can still keep all the themes and the symbolism and all that. But I was like, if this movie actually ends with him finally going through with it, burying himself alive and waking up and being Isabel, and that's the happy ending that they're both in the TV show, I still think I'd have loved that ending just because it's such a wild, like, oh, the world they're in's fake and they have to go. I mean, maybe it's, although to be honest, maybe that's almost a little bit too Matrix though, because that's very much Neo coming out of the Matrix into the real world and realizing who he really is, kind of thing. You know, there'll definitely be more parallels with that, I suppose, if they did that. But this is the thing, it's building up to, you know, her saying, hey, I had to come back for you because I know you're trapped here too. So tomorrow night at midnight, we can both go together, and that's going to involve burying themselves alive. But yeah, it's really...
Just wish there was an easier process to...
I know, but I think that's the point though, is that the idea that coming out of the closet for whatever the specific thing might be is so scary that it feels like you're burying yourself alive. I think that's what they're going for. And I think it's actually around this part of the movie as well, where there is a flashback that I think was implying that Owen at one point did try to commit suicide, where he's watching the show and he gets really emotional, and basically we see the dad sort of hear something and he comes running downstairs and Owen's head's like in the TV. Now I think this is more symbolic than he literally stuck his head in the TV like through the glass. But you know, you can see all the glow effects, like it's kind of cartoony coming out of the TV. But it really does feel like this feels, especially since right after you see him in the bathroom like vomiting into the toilet, it feels like someone found him trying to like have an overdose and like took him to the bathroom to like throw it all up. That's what this felt like. It felt like he tried to leave this world, but his dad wouldn't let him, like, because his dad's still alive at this point.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Because I think I kind of interpreted it a little differently. Like, I can definitely see what you're saying, and that's... Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I read it. I could be wrong, but to me, it was making the present story and choice that he was having to make about, do I make the choice to, like, make my life better by accepting what I am and trying to have that life. It was making that stronger for me because it was like things got so bad after he lost that show and lost like this one friend that at one point he did just try to check out.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I guess the way I like, I wasn't thinking about that angle, like, because to me, because it's a little weird visually, so to me it looked kind of like, well, I guess I wasn't sure if he actually stuck his head through, but it also kind of looked like to me like the TV was sucking him in. So again, I thought this was like another instance of like, like the show was trying to, bring him in, like he was going to be a part of it. And again, this was him getting scared and backing away from, that chance to go and be in the show and like be who he's meant to be. And instead, once again, you're getting scared. And
the dad literally fights. I can see that interpretation.
But I mean, like either way though, like I just thought it was like a really interesting way to like represent it visually. Like it looked cool, and then and again, it is interesting because like the dad like seems so like gruff and stoic, and this is the first time I kind of see him like, I don't know, it looked like he was like caring for him, like he was like trying to make sure he was okay, and then I guess that'd probably work out with your interpretation if he's trying to like wake him up in the shower and stuff, if he had maybe taken like too many pills or something, or I don't know.
Although the entire time, even though he's technically helping him, he doesn't look happy about it. It's like
That's
he's
true,
he's a burden to him, kind of thing. But there's definitely a lot of things in here that I feel like are probably somewhat open to to interpret how you like. But so yeah, it's like, okay, he's got this opportunity. He could go that next night. He could go and do it, but he doesn't. That's the sad truth of it, like I don't know if much else happens before the next time jump, because like the next things I'm remembering for I mean, he says that he never saw Maddie again, like that was it.
They're on like the football field and he just like tackles her and like runs away.
Which is actually probably the one moment in the movie that's like intentionally, I think, very funny. I don't know, there's something really funny about the way he just bolts away from her after he tackles her. But like, so when it cuts ahead in time again and we find out the dad's dead and it's like 2010, and I was like, oh, shouldn't he look older right now? And then I thought about it and went, no, he's actually like only like 27 still at this point, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, no, maybe about 30. He's probably about 30, 31, but still not super old. And he mentions, hey, the Pink Opaque, it's like it's on a streaming service now. You don't even have to like use DVDs. And he mentions that watching it now, it feels kind of silly and cheesy. It's not what he remembered. It's more of a kid's show. Like,
I thought this was really interesting. Like,
it is, and it's almost like he's disassociated so much with what the show meant to him that he's kind of like, because he also says here, I decided it was time to be a man, and that line really stuck out to me. I'm going to be a grown-up man, and I've got a family of my own. We never see the family that he's got, but he says he's got a family. I mean, we can take his word for it, I guess. But he's got a flat screen TV now, and he's going to watch the Pink Opaque on the flat screen on the streaming service, and it's this cheesy thing where he's like, oh, this was silly that I was ever into this. Like, it's like almost like he's trying to convince himself, yeah, I'm a normal man now. I have a family, I have a job, I do manly things.
But then it's so interesting though that you watch the show and it's just completely different from like everything we've seen up until this point.
Yeah, you see the ice cream man again, but then it turns out that the kids just like give him no, you can be around all year, just serve soup in the winter. Which, by the way, growing up in Scotland, like the ice cream van was a thing all year round. I like this idea that it just stops because it's not summer anymore is really bizarre to me. But all right, whatever.
We'd see him a good amount of the time. Like, obviously, if it's like winter and it's snowing and freezing, you probably wouldn't see him. But like, you'd still see him in the fall and stuff. Yeah,
it's because ice cream vans here at least never like you called it an ice cream van, and that was like the main item they sold. But they were basically just small shops. They had like chocolate bars, they had drinks, they had tons of stuff. Get popcorn from them if you wanted. I don't know.
Yeah. And then it's like really interesting too that it's just like completely different like actors and stuff, that everything is so different.
It's a bunch of like 13-year-olds instead of like the two like older teens who have this like deep bond. They've both got this pink tattoo in the back of their neck, which is actually one of the things earlier on.
Oh yeah, I forgot this scene.
Yeah, and the flashback where he seemed to try on the dress, she like drew the little pink ghost tattoo in the back of his neck. And I thought it was a very powerful little moment where you see him the next morning, like scrubbing at it like as hard as he can to get it, because he doesn't want anyone to see this, like marking on him. Yeah. Like he's ashamed of it, and like, he doesn't want his dad to see it. Like, again, very symbolic of everything. Very good.
Yeah, and so it was funny too. So this scene when he's older and he's watching the show again, this is what actually reminded me of Power Rangers, because I feel like I've had this reaction, like, I don't know, a couple of years ago when, I mean, at this point, maybe like 10 years or something now, but like I remember Power Rangers being on a streaming service and being like, oh yeah, I love this as a kid, and then watching it and just being like really embarrassed, like, oh, like I like this. I
mean, I wasn't embarrassed, but yeah, but you watch that now, it's like, yeah, it's a kid's show. It's like a super kid show. It's not something that just works for kids. It's something that's aimed at children. Yeah, like, it gets this this idea here where, like, I'm trying to remember, like, I may be misremembering, but I don't know how much else happens in this part of the time period before it jumps ahead to, like, later again.
Yeah, I don't think there's much. I mean, if there was, I don't remember really anything, at least anything of importance happening until we get to, like, the last final time jump.
I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but the end of the movie, as we skip ahead another...
It's like 20 something years. I feel like it's like a good chunk of time,
which puts it at 2030, right? So, I mean, what age will you be in 2030? Because he's probably that age here.
Oh, me? Let's see. That's what, 6 years away. So I'll be about 44.
I'll be 44. Yeah. I've honestly, if I have any critiques in the movie, right, and I get that it's a low budget movie, I will say their attempt at making him look older here was kind of weird. Because he's only meant to be in his 40s, but they've got him walking like he's an old man. And I was like, okay, it's a bit strange, but whatever. Like,
I think maybe, I don't know if you want to have some reasoning or something behind it. Maybe it's because he's like not living his authentic self. Maybe he's not in as good a shape, or it tends to age you more or whatever, or suck your life force.
Yeah, because I mentioned in the previous time period that the theater shut down, but his manager took him with him to like this like arcade style like kids place, the Fun House or whatever it's called. And when we skip ahead 20 years, he's working there. So it's like, oh, you've been here for 20 years. Like this is what your career has ended up being, is working here, like fixing the ball pit and, you know, whatever else.
And yeah, and it's not even like he took over for his manager. Like, it seems like he's still like, just
he's got the same exact job. And powerful moment here, because like they do the whole thing where they have to all walk out and sing happy birthday for the kid who's having a birthday, and they're singing happy birthday. And I think what's really interesting about this breakdown that he has here is that when it's effectively triggered, because they finish singing happy birthday, and then the manager, who's the character from before, who but doesn't look that much older, so maybe they were trying to get at something here where Owen's aged worse than everyone else. But the manager says, oh, let's do one more round, and they start singing happy birthday again. And I love the idea of like one more happy birthday song was what broke Owen, because they then just start screaming, shut up or whatever. But then no one reacts to him. They all just stand still, frozen, like time's frozen still, as he screams his heart out. Like he's just completely having a breakdown. And it kind of felt like this is representing the idea that he's not really having this breakdown, like physically in the real world. This is inside his head. He is mentally realizing, what is my life? Why am I stuck in this? I hate this. Like this is 20 years of this shit.
I mean, I was kind of curious. Like, I understand what the intent behind like the breakdown and the people basically like ignoring him and stuff, but I wasn't quite sure, like, if this is literally supposed to be happening, or if it's more just like going on in his head.
I think the way they react it's not literal, but like I don't make suggest as well that he's just upset and breaking down because he's been at a shitty job for 20 years. It's not that. It's more that he's been trapped and not been himself, and this is like a symptom of, or the offshoot of that. But so we have this wild scene where he goes to the bathroom and he cuts open his stomach, and this sort of feeds back to that conversation on the bleachers way back with Maddie, where he says he doesn't really feel there's anything inside himself.
Oh yeah,
right. And he cuts his stomach open, and there's no blood, so again it's not literal, but he's cutting his stomach open, and he pulls open his stomach, and it's the TV glow, right? And for me, this is where I felt like the title comes from. Obviously, we've been seeing TV glow throughout the whole time, but for me, the title really means this moment where he sees the TV glow is still in there. Like, the idea of like what he could be is still in there. And like maybe someday he will be able to actually like fulfill that part of him and actually be who he is. But the actual final moment of the movie, though, and it was really surprising when it cut to black, is it's him walking through like this place again, right? And he's basically just walking past like all the people who are there for this birthday party and saying sorry and apologizing kind of meekly to them and saying that he's on new medication. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he says I'm sorry to like, you know, half a dozen people at least. And then it just cuts to black. And it's like he's still apologizing for not being what they expect him to be. And they're not even like reacting to him. They don't even care.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so lonely feeling. It's so desolate. It really does feel like a bleak ending. There's like those little things of hope that he still could one day overcome this and be who he's supposed to be. But like this does feel like a dire ending because he didn't take the chance. He didn't go with Maddie.
Yeah, no, I think like lonely is the perfect word to describe it. And yeah, it's interesting. Like you mentioned before, he says that he has a family, but we never actually see them. And I feel like that makes it feel even more lonely, that it's like, yeah, he has these people that, you know, you would imagine like care for him and stuff, but we don't even see him. So it feels like because he's not like true to himself that they don't even exist or like register really. Like,
yeah, they're not his real life. Like even if like, you know, it would almost be interesting to explore, but obviously this is not what the movie wants to focus on. It is actually quite impactful that we never see this family that he supposedly has. But like, it would be interesting to see maybe a little bit of like, how does he even like connect with someone and like ask someone to marry him and go through that process without the other person just sort of being aware that his heart's not in it at any point. You know, you feel like you would notice that, but maybe that suggests how broken the other person is, perhaps. But yeah, it's really powerful, and I think you know the last film from the director was also very much about someone who felt they didn't belong in the world, and it was kind of someone talking to a stranger online about conspiracy theories and how that kind of built up, and I definitely feel like an evolution from that to this, where some of those same vibes, some of those same feelings, and definitely exploring the experience that the directors had in this very artistic way. But this felt bigger because, yeah, like I said, it has multiple characters, it has locations, it's got more of a story to it. If there's one complaint that the last movie you could have had at it, is so cut down and threadbare that it is just kind of one person and a computer screen and a lot of like vague images to like get, so it's this like super art. I think this will work for more people than the last movie did, because this has more of a sort of a movie feel to it, but it definitely has a lot of the vibes and kind of feelings that movie did. I can definitely I can tell 100% it's the same director.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I do feel like for a lot of people it's probably going to be a love it or hate it kind of thing. I think,
sure,
you know, again, like talking about the people that are giving it low scores, like there's probably a lot of people that don't really want to think too hard and just want the, you know, scary movie version.
They wanted a spooky movie about a TV show that has something in it that's going to attack them or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I mean, you know, if they go in expecting that and then they're getting this, like, I guess whatever. But I don't know, this is so much better, and there's like so much more to take from it, and I don't know, so much meaning that I just think it's fantastic. And I mean, these are two really interesting, like, meaningful movies from a director that I'm very much interested to see whatever they do next.
For sure. Yeah. I think it does such a good job of like making you relate to a character who's going through something that, well, there is obviously an audience who's going to relate to it. Many of us won't relate directly, but there's so much of it that is relatable. And I think one of the great things about art is being able to like put you into a character's shoes and make you feel some empathy for something that you're never going to feel yourself, or maybe will never feel in the right way or whatever. And I think this particular subject of being trans is like one of the tougher ones in a lot of ways, because I think I can understand like almost anything else, like, or like relate to it more than I can that, because I like being gay is not that like far-fetched for me to understand. I didn't decide to be attracted to women, right? I just am. So it doesn't feel that weird to me that, you know, some people are just like feel the opposite or like a bit of both, or like whatever. like all those things feel really simple to understand for me because I didn't pick that. I just am. It makes sense to me that some people it's just the other, right? Or whatever combination it could be. But being trans is a very different and very specific, and it's something that is harder to wrap your head around when you're not. And I think part of the reason why like people are so like actually, even as certain things feel like they're getting more and more progressive, like the one subject that feels still quite as like toxic and as harsh as this subject, is because it is that much harder for a lot of people to even like wrap their heads around it, and it scares them to even like think about it, you know. So like this movie, like I mean admittedly the people that subject just makes them feel uncomfortable are probably not going to get the subtext of this anyway, but I imagine it probably could make those people, if you explained it to those, let's say someone watched this movie and is very bigoted about that, and you then they liked it for whatever reason because they just didn't get like what it was going for, and then you explained it to them, I imagine they probably would feel quite uncomfortable that they liked it or whatever, you know. So
no, I mean those are all good points, and it is so frustrating that like it's still such a thing that people like are afraid of or is so against it, especially when it's like something that is just like it doesn't affect your life whatsoever. No. Like, I mean
that's the thing is, you know, it's nice to try and understand it better and empathize with people, but ultimately no one needs to really understand it. If everyone just like
that's true,
just like just let people be, it'd be fine. Like it wouldn't matter. But of course that's not the world we live in. But that said though, I mean I don't think this story is important because it's for people who, I mean I think it's great for people like us who get to empathize with something that's a little bit different, and we get this different perspective, and you can feel the existential dread of the character. But I think more than anything, this is for people who have went through something similar or have had to come out in some form, whether it's being trans or gay or whatever it may be. I think it's made even more so for those people to have the shared experience, to feel seen, to have someone else say, hey, I felt these things too, so they can feel, you know, they're represented, and like they can they can relate to a story in a way that's so direct to their experience that they wouldn't normally get from a lot of other mainstream stuff. I mean I think like, you know, sometimes people don't really understand like how important it is to be seen in movies and stuff, and then you know people complain about like, why is everything so woke now? They always gotta have like women or gay characters in it. And it's like, well, no, that's because like, you know, media is a very powerful thing, and like, you know, it can feel very like distancing to not see yourself like represented at all the time. So you know, it is important to have that, and it's an interesting thing. Like, you know, you're talking about like stepping in someone's shoes and empathizing with a character, you know, like through a movie and stuff, which is like what is going on in this movie. Like, you know, it's funny because like that's like what is literally happening in the movie. Like it's about people like, you know, realizing themselves through characters in a movie, but it's also like, what will probably happen with a lot of people that watch the movie too. So it's very fitting. You know, and it's a horror movie in the sense that it's about the absolute horror that someone can't even bring themselves to consider like accepting who they are, because because like society is built in such a way like if society was completely accepting of anyone who was different, I don't know if this character would be going through the same turmoil of even like trying to deal with what they are. I think that's why you have this intimidating father figure who clearly probably would be very judgmental about it. I mean that one line of dialogue, isn't that show for girls? Like that line does so much heavy lifting in like what the movie's saying and why there is this fear in him. It's not just his dad, I'm assuming, but like it's definitely a big part of it. So
and it's also probably like important for it to be like, you know, set in this time period where like obviously like, you know, things you know, are still not like great, but you know,
yeah,
there
arguably
are, like,
even good. But there's like,
yeah,
I feel like there is like at the very least, I feel like people are more aware of this, because I remember, like, even just since I started the YouTube channel, I remember me and Connor reviewed the OA back in 2016, and there was a trans character in that we didn't realize was trans, and I think it's, you know, we genuinely just made the mistake and misgendered them, not knowing that we were doing it.
Okay, yeah.
And I only found out sort of in hindsight that well, actually, I guess I figured it out probably when season 2 came around, but like, I only figured out in hindsight that we had done that because someone left an angry comment on, I think it was iTunes, bizarrely, which is annoying because you can't respond to an iTunes comment. If it was YouTube, I'd said something to them. And I think part of that is just how little I even thought about trans people in that time, right? And I feel like just over the next couple of years after that, between comic books, like I didn't know what a non-binary person was, because I remember learning that from a comic book. There was a Dead Man comic from DC where the main character was non-binary, and they explained kind of what that meant. And it's the first time I'd ever heard of someone using they or them as a pronoun, which is, funnily enough, the director of this movie uses they them as pronouns. So like, even just my own learning in the past like 8 years has like went from very oblivious to almost anything, not out of like any kind of, you know, malice or hate. I just didn't know a lot of this shit. And then, you know, totally, in the last few years, just kind of like just being a lot more aware of it because there's a lot more representation in media talking about the subject. And then you get to this, and you know,
and that's why it's funny. Like, people complain, like, oh, like, why are they shoving this in our comic books and, you know, TV shows? And it's like, well, because like literally that's how like some people learn about it. Like, yeah, there's probably like tons of things that or at the very least, it won't be normalized, or it helps normalize it, like, by having it on this. Because
it certainly wasn't taught when I was in school. Maybe it is now. I'd like to think it would be.
Some people fighting against that.
Probably, and I certainly didn't know anyone. A little, to my knowledge, maybe I'll bump into someone who's changed, who you know, turns out. But like, I certainly didn't know anyone that I knew of at the time that was going through something like that openly. So, you know, like, yeah, comic books, movies, TV, that's how I learn about this shit for the most part. So it's important in that sense. Anyway, that's turned into a serious conversation about stuff at the end here, but
look forward to the comments on this one.
Oh, be nice, people, for the love of things. Be nice, right? Be nice.
Well, I mean, yeah. Obviously, the people making shitty comments will probably not be the type of people we usually like.
Probably, but
listening. But
sometimes with these types of movies that are more about it, you'll get like assholes who just go looking for stuff. Because I remember reviewing some Dear White People, and some people were clearly just looking for anything about Dear White People to complain and say it's propaganda, blah blah. Why are you even covering that? Like, piss off.
Fun.
Anyway, to wrap about right to the movie, Tim.
So.
Go on.
Oh no! One weird thing that I will bring up, because I'm assuming this probably isn't going to mean much to you, and it's something I didn't catch at first. My wife actually explained it to me because she had known about the cameo or whatever. But do you remember the scene where, I think it's about the time where, like, you know, like when they're kids and Maddie disappears and burns the TV and stuff. And then do you remember there's just like a scene where it's like two like guys just like on the sidewalk in front of the house or whatever?
Oh yeah. It's when he comes out to, I think it's after he meets Maddie again, maybe. He goes out the door and it's like they're there, almost as if they're going to stop him from going to see her again. Like, yeah. But yeah, go on then. What's the hubbub on this?
So I'm assuming you didn't recognize who they are.
I don't think so.
Which
no.
I didn't really recognize them at first either, and then my wife was like, "Oh, like they're these people." But I don't know if you've ever heard of the show Pete and Pete.
Ironically, given my name, no, I've not heard of Pete and Pete.
So I'm assuming, so they were the two stars of that show, and that was a show that was on like Nickelodeon, but it wasn't like a horror show, but it was
interesting.
Like, it was like a kind of I guess maybe like young teen show, and it was something that I actually think it still holds up today. I feel like I watched not every episode, but some episodes like a couple of years ago, and it's one of those shows that's like very weird. So yeah, like not like horror per se, but it's like it's one of those ones that reflects on like a lot of the weirdness and humdrumness of like suburbia living and stuff. And I actually think it's quite a good show. But yeah, they were just the stars of that show. So I don't know if like that show had like maybe a big significance for the director.
I forgot about that scene to bring it up because it was so standalone, but I think at the time I thought one of them was his manager from work, but they were standing there like zombies. I was maybe in the moment I thought, oh, is that representing something? But then I forgot about it because it never really like tied into anything else. So that's an interesting bit of intel. Yeah,
I'm curious if there's like a bigger meaning or sense to it in terms of the movie, or if it is supposed to just be like a fun cameo because maybe that was like the director's version of the Pink Opaque or something.
Yeah, maybe that was another show that the director watched growing up, and that's like a sly kind of cool thing. Because like I said, we had Tara from Buffy in here in a small role, so that's a thing. Notably, one of the two people in the gay relationship on that show as well, so that's all. Maybe you shouldn't ignore that either. So, and actually now I'm thinking about it, someone who connected with the other character through like a weird, in that case it was witchcraft, but you know.
Oh sure, yeah.
You know, but it was kind of like she was this quiet, meek person, and anyway. So yeah, what I was getting at is, Tim, what is your scene of the movie?
Oof, geez, yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, the whole movie is so stylish and just has such a cool vibe and aesthetic to it. But I will probably give it up for the scene where he's walking down the hallway and we're getting all like the snippets of the tapes popping up. Like again, it was just really well done, and I like seeing all like the snippets of the episode descriptions and the comments she would make, and I thought it was like a visually interesting way to provide you with more like lore of the show and stuff without just having someone talking about it or whatever. And we didn't really mention it, but I like the soundtrack to the movie quite a bit too.
Sure. Yeah.
I forget what song was specifically playing in that scene, but I mean all the songs in the movie were really good. They're even playing there's one song, I think they actually play it like a couple of times. I think it's one of the first songs you hear, but that was like a breakup song for me that I listened to like on repeat over and over again after like a big breakup. So that was also like giving me some like feelings and stuff.
PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you can't be that upset of an old breakup now that you're married.
No. Yeah, no, obviously.
That wipes out the old breakups, whereas I still have to be depressed about them because I have no happiness. I'm going to die alone, so I have nothing to be happy about.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I always thought it was weird, like when there are people that are like still hung up on that stuff. Like even like for me, it was always like, well, as soon as you're in another relationship, like I feel like that stuff just doesn't even register to me anymore. But I feel like I still see people that are like hung up on that stuff. It's always weird to me.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm picking here. Also, just a note on the narration again, because obviously in the context that Maddie brings it up, it's like, oh no, it's because you're actually, like, the TV show is actually a window into your real life, so that's why you're talking like a TV show. But I guess in the more the context of that's not what's really happening. The TV show is just a metaphor for other things. But the idea that he's narrating more as he gets older because he's like an observer to his own life because he's not really himself kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to be artsy-fartsy with that interpretation, but
I like it.
My scene of the movie. Oh, geez. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. Like I mean, the scene where she sort of says what happened to her is really cool, just because it goes on for a long time. There's like a really long shot of just her talking and telling the story, and then eventually gets to the wild idea that, oh, I went to the TV show because the TV show is real. I'm actually Tara and you're actually Isabel. That's who we're supposed to be. But yeah, but I think I almost want to say that the scene where he actually like breaks down and says, "Tell my dad I lied to him," so I get grounded and like I don't know. There's so many good options to pick from because there's so many good character bits. There. Yeah, no, I'll go with the scene where she explains, because it's such a cool concept where I'm like, is this almost going to turn into a sci-fi show where like the TV show is real and this is like a fake world? It'd be very interesting because as much as I've seen a lot of sci-fi shows or movies do that, where it's like, oh, we're in a fake world. I mean, in The Matrix even, like we're in a fake world and then we go to the real world. This is a little bit more interesting because it's more like sort of thematic and emotionally driven. Almost more Inception-esque actually in some ways, in terms of it being more driven by like the trauma and the like what they're going through. But yeah, I'll put the scene under the parachute with the the big long speech. All right, MVP of the movie. That almost feels mean because like, there's two main characters and they're both very important, but
yeah,
you have to do it first. So on you go.
No, I mean I think it's literally, yeah, you could pick like anyone. I mean, even like some of the smaller characters, yeah, I feel like are. I mean, obviously they're not as big a presence, but like, you know, they're impactful, or like even saying something like the like weird slimy creatures you see on the TV show are like kind of fun too.
Yes.
But no, like you said, like it's a very two-hander movie. Like there's two, you know, main characters.
But you're a big Limp Bizkit fan, so that's why you're going to pick Fred Durst.
It's tough, yeah. I really like both characters, but I do think I will give it up to Maddie. I think, yeah, every time she's on the screen, it's like it feels very like important, and there's a lot of gravitas, like especially later on, like you're saying, when, you know, she shows back up, and
I think every time those two characters were talking, I was enthralled in the relationship.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Which isn't really on one or like it's on both of them, not just one of them. But it, like, yeah, it does make it very hard to pick. I feel like Owen's the obvious choice because he's the lead, because it's his story and he has all the stuff. Although I do want to say, when we see Mr. Melancholy, and he's literally just got a moon for a head, and it's got kind of almost like a, it's like there's a physical thing, but it almost looks like stop motion the way it's moving. And I'm like, oh, I love how that looks. I almost want to give it to Mr. Melancholy.
No, I think that's totally fair. It's very cool.
But yeah, so very cool. All right, Tim, what are you rating I Saw the TV Glow?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything negative to say about it. I was really excited for this movie. It didn't disappoint. You know, I feel like it's a very powerful, emotional story with like a lot of a very, you know, concise, you know, metaphor to it, but also like, you know, like we said a bunch of times before, but like even if it doesn't maybe exactly relate to you, there's still so much other stuff that's relatable, and you know, the idea of the way like media can shape your lives. I mean, again, we've done, you know, how many episodes of this show? Obviously, like movies and TV is very important to us. And
I mean, that's something we maybe even didn't emphasize enough, is the idea that part of this just works so well for anyone who loves TV shows or movies and just remembers watching them as a kid. Like, it's that part is uber relatable.
Yeah, like, you know, like obviously, like there's a very casual audience that this movie probably is not for, but like for people that just, you know, hold media in a high regard, you know, in their life, or you know, who just appreciate art in this kind of way, yeah, I feel like it's very impactful. But I mean, everything on the movie is just hitting. Like, you know, the cinematography, it looks great. You know, the soundtrack, it sounds great. The two leads and everyone in the movie just have really great performances. There's a lot of weirdness going on, like, which I love. Like I'm sure there's probably stuff that I missed that I'm just like, oh, like this means that, but I'm just not focusing on it because I'm just like, oh, like this is like a cool visual or whatever. And then yeah, all the stuff with the TV show lore, I always thought was fascinating, and liked that anytime we got little snippets of that. So yeah, really, I have very little negative to say about this movie. So I'm gonna go really high. I'm gonna give it a 9. I was just really enthralled, and yeah, and it's I felt like it, you know, it's an hour and 40 minutes, so it's not like, it wasn't like overly long or anything, but I never felt like, you know, there's some movies like I feel like now, like I get bored very easily with movies, especially if it's just like you know, some slower stuff. But I don't know, like like you were saying, like even when there's just scenes with the two leads that are just like talking, like I found it myself very into it. Like it was really never a dull moment. So yeah, fantastic movie. I'm very happy to finally get to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's excellent. It's even a step up from the director's previous movie, which I liked, and was definitely more experimental. And this is still very experimental in a lot of ways, but it's a lot more refined. The two characters work well together. They're compelling. It always feels like it has something to say. You get some fun and creative, like, wackiness from, like, the TV show scenes, which is entertaining to watch. It's very hypnotic the whole time between the cinematography and the soundtrack and stuff like that. And I also, just a thought I just had here, I guess this kind of ties into when I said, I think what the title's referring to, the moment when he sees the TV glow inside of him, is that, I guess what I'm saying is I think the word glow in the title is a noun, not a verb.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Right? As in, you're not seeing the TV glow, you're not describing what the TV's doing, you're saying you're seeing the physical glow, which, because it could go either way. Like, I think either definition of the sentence I think works grammatically, but
I mean, like, even like, I think it's cool just to even have like a very captivating title. You know.
So yeah, and the trailer was good, so I was expecting to like it because it had a good vibe. So I mean, there may be a bit of a debate when we get to like top 10s early next year about, like, are we counting this as a hard horror movie for such a list? Because I don't know. It's kind of like how a couple of years ago we didn't count The Menu, even though we loved The Menu, but it was kind of more of a comedic thriller than it was a horror movie.
Very fair.
But that all said, I think I'm going to be thinking about it a long time, so I think I'm going to go with a 9 as well. I was tempted to bump it down to the 8.5, but nice. I can't really fault anything other than maybe like the old age kind of like makeup / pretending at the end was a bit goofy. But that, if that's all I've got like, to complain about, that's, you know,
I feel like that has to be like one of the higher like combined scores we've had in a while, because like even the ones that we go kind of high, it'll usually be like maybe one of us will have a slightly higher and then the other one will be a little bit down. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely been a while since we both had one we rated that high together.
Well, I mean, we've recorded some Oktoberthon episodes that are so I know some stuff that's coming up that might maybe kind of fill that criteria, but going back, we both gave an 8 to Psycho Gorman. Does that count?
I mean, that's somewhat high, I guess.
That's not 9 high, but it's we both enjoyed that. That is our thoughts, and this ended up in a long episode. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because it was very rich and stuff to talk about. But I came into this with like very little sleep, and it ended up being one of the longer episodes we've done in a while. So you're welcome, everyone. I suffer, so your phone can glow at you, and you can connect to us through a screen. You're welcome. So anyway, next week is the off week for YouTube and the regular podcast feed, but Patreon will be getting an episode next week, the exclusive episode, which is the Ben Affleck starring Phantoms, because Tim had a weird inkling to watch this, so he asked me to put it on the bonus schedule. So
you're welcome.
That's a Patreon exclusive next week. Well, it'll be eventually on YouTube memberships once they catch up. They're building up. They're actually not too far behind now. The last bonus episode I put in YouTube memberships was Hospital Massacre from February, so it's getting close, because there was a time when Patreon was like 35 episodes ahead, so I've narrowed that gap considerably. But anyway, you want to support us is greatly appreciated. I wouldn't be able to do this, like all these Screams After Midnight episodes, Atomic Cinema Experiment episodes, Collector's Cut episodes, all the TV reviews, if it wasn't for Patreon and YouTube memberships and that kind of thing helping out and supporting everything. So you can get bonus stuff. You get an exclusive episode every month, although in October you'll get more than one exclusive because it's the Oktoberthon. $5 and up also gets you access to the Even More Stream segments, which is just other random horror movie kind of discussions, top fives, things like that. There's 1 or 2 of them a month as well, alongside the bonus episode. Plus there's bonuses for the other shows. Me and David do a couple of bonus shows, such as Extra Reels, where we review some of the worst things ever made, and Tim even guested on an episode of that for Madam Web in August.
Some say the best episode.
Some might say that. There's definitely movies I enjoyed more though, so I would say they're better episodes. But
something about the conversation was lacking on those episodes. Some may say.
Some named Tim. I wanted to try and end this with making a joke about I saw the glow, but like instead of saying the TV glow, I was going to say I saw the, like I was basically trying to make like a radiation joke, like something had gotten contaminated at Chernobyl or something. I saw the. Sure. I don't know, Geiger counter glow. I don't know. It's not going anywhere. It's a complete train wreck. I apologize, everyone, for my words and deeds.
Well, I will give you this little story that maybe will not be entertaining at all, but this is a little fun fact. I have a little Swamp Thing statue, like about like that big. I just got like the classic like Alan Moore, Stephen Bissett, run of Swamp Thing. From around that time period, but it's actually glow in the dark, and I kind of have it like sitting on the dresser near my bed. So I
bet your wife loves that, living with a man with a glow up in the dark Swamp Thing next to the bed.
Oh my god, that's not even like top 10 like embarrassing stuff I have at the house. But the reason I think about it a lot is because every time I go to sleep, like I usually read a lot before bed, so I'm usually like in bed with the lights on reading. So the last thing I usually do when I go to sleep is I go get up, turn off all the lights, and then go back to bed, and then like the very last thing I see every night before I go to sleep is Swamp Thing glowing at me.
No, honey, it's not you I see the end of every night before I sleep. It's Swamp Thing.
Well, if she was glowing, like I would in the dark, I could turn around and see her.
You've got enough, kid. She doesn't need to glow anymore, Tim. Two's plenty. All right. That's the show, everyone. That's been Screams After Midnight. Thank you for joining us. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications. All that stuff helps out too. But we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next regular episode, which I can't tell you what that's going to be. It's the vote episode on Patreon, which is one of the other things you can do over there at the $10 tier. So we'll see what that is when the time comes. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.